Leary's wrists were bleeding, the metal cuffs too tight on her soft skin. She sat on the cold floor of a dirty cage, hidden deep inside a cargo ship. The smell of rust and fear filled the air. She wasn't alone. Other aliens sat in silence, too scared to speak, but Leary's eyes burned with something different. She wasn't broken, not yet. She was taken from her home 3 moons ago. Her village was peaceful, full of song and light. Then the raiders came, with loud guns and cruel hands. They called her merchandise and treated her like a thing, like she didn't have a name, a heart, or dreams. The slave market was loud, full of shouting and chains. Buyers walked by, inspecting aliens like animals. Some cried, some begged, but Leary stayed quiet. She watched, listened, and waited. A man with golden skin tried to buy her, but the deal was not made, so they kept her in the dark, locked, and hungry. Every day she thought of escaping. She counted guard footsteps, watched doors open and close. She saved scraps of food to keep her strength. She remembered her mother's voice. Never bow your head, Leary, even if they chain your hands. That memory kept her alive. Then one night, the storm came, the ship shook, lights flickered, and a siren screamed in the air. The guards ran, shouting in panic. Leary didn't wait. She kicked the cage bars. Again and again, her feet bloody, until one bar broke loose. She slipped out, heart racing, breath sharp. She ran through the corridors, hiding behind crates. An alarm buzzed louder. But she didn't stop. She found an escape pod, half broken and dusty. She didn't know where it would go, but anywhere was better than this ship. The pod launched into the stars. Small and shaking, she curled up inside, body weak, mind spinning. 4 hours, or maybe days, the pod floated, until finally, it crashed through a blue sky, into a world of trees and wind. Leary crawled out, eyes squinting at the sun. The ground was soft, not cold, like the ship floor. She had landed on Earth, but she didn't know the name. She only knew this place had air, light, and freedom. She limped through the forest, hungry and dizzy. Her body hurt, her feet blistered, but she kept walking. She saw strange animals, tall green trees, and water so clean it made her cry. She drank, washed her face, and whispered, "I'm alive," but freedom was not safe at night. She heard engines, small flying machines, scanning the sky. They were looking for her. She had escaped, but she was still hunted. She found an old shed near a quiet road and hid under its broken roof. She didn't sleep, she couldn't. Then came the sound of a vehicle. Slow and steady, she peeked out and saw something she didn't expect: a human. He was tall, had rough hands and kind eyes. He stopped his truck near the shed, looking around. Leary held her breath, ready to run, but she couldn't move fast. Her legs were weak. The human saw her, eyes wide in surprise. He didn't yell, didn't grab her. Instead, he crouched slowly and said softly, "Hey, it's okay, I'm not here to hurt you." She didn't believe him, not yet. But something in his voice felt different. Not like the slavers, not like the guards. He took off his jacket and placed it near her, then stepped back. She stared at the jacket, then at him. He waited, patient and still. Leary finally moved, slow and cautious. She took the jacket, wrapped it around her thin shoulders. It was warm, warmer than anything she had felt in weeks. Her lips trembled, but she didn't speak. She just looked at the human with tired, wary eyes. He nodded and said, "You can stay if you want." Then he opened the truck door. Waiting, Leary stood still, thinking she didn't know this man, didn't know this planet, but something deep inside whispered maybe, just maybe, this was her chance. Hook ending, as she stepped toward the truck, a drone flew by in the sky, scanning the forest. Searching for her heat signature, the humans saw it too, and quickly drove off with her inside. Neither of them knew it yet. But this moment was the beginning of a bond that would change both their lives forever. Asterisk Jace had seen many strange things in his life, but a small, beaten alien girl stepping into his truck during a silent forest storm was something new. She didn't speak, didn't cry, didn't ask for help. She just held the jacket close, sharp like a cornered animal. He didn't ask questions, not. Yet he saw the pain in her face, the dirt on her skin, the scars around her wrists. Whatever she had run from, it had been cruel. He drove slowly through the woods, turning off the headlights. He knew the drones above weren't human-made. He had seen that kind of machine before, silent, scanning, cold. They weren't here by accident. They were hunting her. He glanced at her from the corner of his eye. She sat curled up, arms wrapped. Around her knees, every bump in the road made her flinch. Still, she said nothing. "You're safe here," he said, voice calm. She didn't answer, but her eyes moved to him for just a second. It was enough to know she had heard him. The old cabin sat far from any town. Jace had built it himself, with his own hands. No neighbors, no cameras. No eyes, just trees and silence. He pulled into the garage and closed the door behind them. She followed him inside, quiet as a shadow. She didn't ask where they were. Didn't ask who he was. She stood in the corner, watching him light a fire. He moved slowly. Never turning his back, he placed a blanket on the couch and said, "You can rest here." Still no answer. She didn't trust him, he understood that. He didn't blame her. In the kitchen, he made soup. Simple, warm, human food. When he placed the bowl near her, she stared at it like it might explode. But after a long pause, she picked it up and drank. Every sip was shaky. Every bite a test. But she didn't stop. Later, Jace sat at his old desk, pretending to read, but he was watching her through the reflection in the window. She moved with care, like someone who had always lived in danger. She checked every door, every shadow, every exit. He spoke softly. "What's your name?" She didn't answer. Instead, she asked in a rough, quiet voice, "Why did you help me?" Jace didn't expect her to speak. He looked at her and said, "Because you looked like you needed it." She narrowed her eyes. "You don't even know me." He smiled a little. "That doesn't matter." Her face changed, just a bit. A flicker of confusion, or maybe fear. "No one helps for free," she whispered. Jace shook his head. "I don't want anything from you." That silence returned. She sat back, her body still tense. Jace stood and walked to the door. "I'll lock the outside gate tonight, but the inside door stays open. All right?" She didn't answer, but she didn't argue either. In the middle of the night, Jace woke to a strange sound, a soft humming, like a machine scanning through the walls. He grabbed the small device under his bed and checked the radar. Red blips, fast and low-flying over the forest. His heart sank. Whoever they were. They were close. He stepped out into the living room and found her already awake. She was standing by the window, holding a metal tool she had taken from his workbench. Her body was shaking, but her eyes were fierce. "They found me," she said. Jace nodded slowly. "I figured," he said. "They're not friends, are they?" She shook her head. "They want to take me back." Jace looked at her and asked, "Do you want to go back?" Her eyes turned hard. "Never." "Then they'll have to go through me first," he said. Simply, she blinked, confused. "Why?" she asked, voice sharp. "You don't even know what I am?" Jace gave a small shrug. "Ush. You're someone who needs help. That's enough." She looked at him like she was trying to understand something impossible. Finally, she said, "My name is Leary." Jace nodded. "Nice to meet you, Leary." Hook ending. Outside. A light swept through the trees, stopping just above the cabin. Ruth Leary stepped back, heart pounding. But Jace walked to the shelf, opened a hidden drawer, and pulled out something cold, heavy, and very human, a combat rifle from Earth's last war. He looked at her and said, "Get some rest if you can. Tomorrow we plan how to make sure they never take you again." High above Earth's quiet forests, a black ship hovered without sound. It didn't belong to any human nation. Its metal skin shimmered like glass, shifting colors to match the stars. Inside, it stood a tall alien with silver eyes and armor, as dark as space. His name was Varnock, a bounty hunter known across the galaxies. He didn't speak much, didn't smile, didn't miss. His job was simple: find runaways, capture them, return them to their owners. And now, he had one target: Leary, her. Escape had caused a loss for his client, a powerful trader in the black markets, and Varnock's reputation was on the line. He had tracked her pod to Earth, a primitive world, but no place was too small to hide from him. On the ship's screen, her life signal blinked faintly. She was injured, weakened, but alive, and she wasn't alone. The signal showed a second heat source, larger, human, armed. Varnock narrowed his eyes. A human was protecting her. That wouldn't last long, back on Earth. The morning sun rose slow and orange through the trees. Jace poured hot water into 2 mugs and offered one to Leary. She hesitated, then took it with a small nod. She had slept. Only a little. Always waking to the sound of the forest. Jace was calm, but alert. He had reinforced the doors, set traps along the edge of the property. He used to be a soldier. Before the last human war ended, he knew what was coming. "I think we have maybe a day," he said. "Maybe less." Leary looked down, fingers tightening on the mug. "He won't stop," she whispered. "Who?" "The hunter," she said. "They call him Varnock." Jace didn't flinch, but his eyes sharpened. He recognized that name. Stories of an alien who hunted across planets, who returned every slave, dead or alive. Leary stood up, walking to the table where Jace had laid out maps. "We have to move," she said. "If he finds us here, we die." Jace studied her face. She wasn't just afraid. She was thinking like a soldier now. Her eyes moved across the map, looking for routes, not escape. "But I won't run again," she said. "Not alone," he smiled faintly. "Then we don't run. We prepare." Hours passed, and the cabin turned into a trap. Jay set up energy nets he had kept from his old missions. Leary learned fast, helping him without needing to be told. She wasn't just some lost girl anymore. She was focused. By nightfall, the sky had turned black, and the wind went quiet. Leary stood near the window, her eyes fixed on the stars. She felt him before she saw him, a chill in her bones, a shadow deep inside her mind. Varnock had landed. The forest outside changed. Birds stopped singing. Air turned heavy. "Okay." Jace looked up, rifle in hand. "It's time," he said. From the trees came a strange buzzing sound, like electricity wrapped in metal. Then a sharp flash of light. One of Jace's traps had been triggered, but the thing it caught didn't scream, didn't fall. It just kept walking. The front door burst open with a blast. Jace fired, hitting the figure in the chest. But Varnock's armor absorbed the hit. The hunter stepped forward, silent, deadly. Leary grabbed a metal rod and charged from the side. Varnock swung around too fast, knocking her across the room. She hit the wall with a cry, but didn't stay down. Jace moved between them, blocking the hunter. "You don't get to take her," he said. Varnock tilted his head, his voice calm and cold. "She is not yours. She is owned. Not anymore." Jace said and pulled the trigger again. The fight was brutal, loud, close. Jace used every move he had learned in war, but Varnock was faster, stronger, still. Jace never backed down. Leary rose again, blood on her face. Rage in her heart. She remembered the chains, the cages, the silence. This time, she wouldn't freeze. She grabbed a flash bomb from the shelf and threw it at the hunter's eyes. It exploded with a blinding light. Varnock stumbled for just a second, enough Jace lunged, slamming a high-powered pulse into his chest plate. The armor cracked, and Varnak fell back. Stunned, breathing hard, Jace stood over him. "You're done," he said, hook ending. But as Varnak's armor sparked, a red light blinked on his wrist. He had already sent a signal. Lyri stepped beside Jay's, eyes full of fire. "He told them," she said. "More are coming," and Jace, with sweat on his brow and a hand on his side wound, replied, "Then we better get ready, 'cause this was just the beginning." Asterisk smoke filled the cabin. Sparks still danced from broken wires. Varnak's body lay unconscious, bound in a reinforced net Jace had dragged from his old storage bin. Lyri sat on the floor, holding her side, breathing fast. Jace kneeled beside her, his own shoulder bleeding. "You all right?" he asked. She nodded once. "I've been worse. They couldn't stay there. More hunters would come." Faster and stronger, Jace opened a hatch in the wooden floor and pulled up a steel case. Inside were keys, codes, and a small glowing cube. He handed the cube to Lyri. "This is our map," he said. "To the place I hoped I'd never need again." They left before sunrise, riding in an old off-road truck. The road was rough, the silence deep. Lyri leaned back, eyes half closed. Her voice was soft when she asked, "Why do you have a safe house?" Jace didn't answer right away. His hands tightened on the wheel. "Because I've made enemies too," he said, "and some of them weren't human." Hours later, they reached a wide stretch of dry land, nothing but dirt and rock. But Jace drove to a flat patch and pressed a hidden button under the dashboard. The ground opened slowly, revealing a steel ramp leading underground. Lyri stared with wide eyes. "What is this place?" He looked at her, tired but calm, a memory. The safe house was deep and cold. Built into stone, lights flicked on as they walked through the halls. There were rooms filled with old tech, weapons, food supplies, and data pads covered in dust. It wasn't just a shelterette, was a base, a place built for survival and war. Jace wrapped his shoulder with a med band and handed another one to Lyri. She cleaned her wound in silence, her fingers gentle but fast. "You built all this?" she asked. He shook his head. "Not alone. I had a team, years ago." He sat at a dusty desk, pulled open a drawer, and took out a picture. It showed 5 humans, dressed in armor, smiling in a bright alien jungle. Lyri leaned closer, pointing at a young woman in the photo. "Who's she?" Jace's voice turned quiet. "My sister, Marla." He didn't speak for a while. Lyri waited, not pushing. Finally, he said, "She was captured during the invasion. Like you, I searched for her, fought to get her back, but she was gone. She never escaped." Lyri looked down at her hands. Remembering the cages, the chains, she whispered, "I'm sorry," Jace nodded, not looking at her. "I couldn't save her," he said, "but maybe I can save you." They worked together through the night. Jace repaired old defense systems, while Lyri studied maps of the stars. They found signals-coded messages between slave traders and hunters. Lyri knew the language, the symbols. "They're coming through Sector 9. She said, 3 ships, maybe 4. Jace clicked on the communicator, but paused. "If we call the authorities, they might take you too." Lyri frowned. "Because?" "I'm not human, because they're afraid of what they don't control." Jace replied. She stood, walking slowly toward him. "But you're not afraid of me, no," he said. "I'm afraid for you." Later, Lyri found a small room. In the back, filled with books and old data pads, she sat down, reading about Earth's war with the slavers, about human cities burned, about children taken. She saw photos of soldiers, some human, some alien, fighting side by side. She didn't know humans had once been hunted too. She didn't know Jace had lost so much. Now she understood why he fought like every life mattered, because to him, they did, that night. Jace handed her a small device. It was round, smooth, and lit with a soft blue glow. "It's a tag," he said, "made by rebels years ago." She turned it over and saw a word in bold letters, "Free." She looked at him, unsure. "It's not a collar." He said, "It's a promise. You belong to no one. Not anymore." Hook ending. Before she could answer, the security alarm blared, a sharp red light flashing in the hall. Jace rushed to the screen and saw 3 dots moving fast on the radar. "They found us," he said, grabbing his rifle. Leary stood beside him, no longer shaking, no longer hiding, her voice steady. Her hands strong. "Then we fight. Together." The ground above the safe house shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights flickered once, twice, then turned red. The radar screen blinked wildly, showing 3 fast-moving signals. Jace stood at the control panel, calm but focused. Leary stood beside him, already holding a weapon in both hands. "They're here," she said. Jace nodded. "We hold the line." The safe house had been built to survive an invasion, but Jace had never expected to use it again, not until Leary showed up, broken and hunted. Now it wasn't just a bunker, it was their only chance to stand and fight. He activated the surface turrets, hidden under piles of rocks. Outside, the sky turned black as the ships lowered. 3 sleek hunter ships, quiet as ghosts, landed in a perfect triangle from each one. Armored warriors stepped out tall, fast and deadly. Inside, Jace handed Leary a small earpiece. "We stay linked," he said. She placed it in her ear and replied, "I won't run this time." The first enemy breached the outer door. A metal drone hovered through, scanning with blue lights. Leary ducked low and threw a shock spike into its center. The drone sparked and crashed into the wall. "They know where we are," Jace said. Leary breathed hard. "Then we give them a reason to be afraid." They moved together through the hallways. Covering each other's backs, Jace took down 2 more drones with perfect shots. Leary used her small size to move fast, slipping through cracks, striking where no one expected. But then the real danger arrived. 3 hunters, not machines. One wore red armor, his claws sharp like knives. The second had glowing eyes and a long-range weapon charged with plasma. The third, silent and thin, moved like smoke through the corridor. Jace and Leary fell back into the defense room, locking the doors. Jace tossed Leary a new weapon, one made for close combat. She held it tight, her fingers trembling but her eyes clear. "They'll break through," she said. Jace looked at her and smiled. "Let them try." The red-armored hunter slammed into the door. Once, twice, then a third time. The metal bent inward. With a final smash, the door burst open and the fight began. Jace fired first, blasting the glowing-eyed hunter in the chest, but its armor held, and it returned fire. Leary rolled under the shot, came up behind the thin one, and slashed his leg. He screamed, spinning fast, but she dodged and struck again. Jace and the red-armored hunter locked in hand-to-hand combat. They moved like war machines, punches heavy, strikes brutal. Jace's body hurt, but he didn't stop. Every strike he gave was for his sister, for Leary, for freedom. Leary was faster. Now, more confident, she moved like water, striking and fading. She landed a blow to the glowing-eyed hunter's mask, cracking it wide open. His shot missed, hitting the ceiling and bringing sparks down like rain. The silent one lunged at her, slicing her arm, but she didn't fall. She turned, grabbed his wrist, and jammed the shock spike into his neck. He convulsed and dropped. Jace and the red-armored brute were still fighting. The floor shook beneath them as they crashed into the walls. Leary ran to help, but the glowing-eyed hunter blocked her path. "Go!" Jace shouted. "I've got him." She faced the glowing one alone. He raised his weapon, but she was already moving. She slid under his arm, jumped, and drove the blade Straight into the weak point under his chin, he froze, eyes wide, then collapsed. Only the red one remained. Jace was bleeding, his face cut, his left arm limp, but he smiled, tired yet. The hunter roared and charged. That's when Leary appeared behind him. Swinging the combat staff with full force, it cracked against the back of his helmet, stunning him. Jace used that second to drive a final punch straight into the hunter's throat. The red one fell, gasping and still. Silence returned to the safe house. Leary dropped the weapon and helped Jace stand. They looked at the bodies, then at each other. "You're all right?" she asked. Jace nodded slowly. "I've been worse." They moved to the control room. Checking the radar, the 3 ships were still parked outside, but they were empty now. "We did it," Leary whispered. Jace looked at her, breathing hard. "You did it," he said. "You didn't run, you fought like a warrior." She lowered her eyes, then smiled a little. "I had someone to fight for." Hook ending. As they stood, catching their breath. The radio crackled. A voice came through Raelian, deep and full of threat. "You may have stopped our hunters, but we are not done." Leary stepped forward and replied into the mic. Her voice strong, then calm. "I'm not afraid anymore." The radio went silent after Leary's bold words. But she and Jace knew what it meant. This wasn't over. More enemies would come, stronger ones. But for the first time since she escaped, Leary didn't feel like prey. She felt like someone who could fight back. They spent the next days rebuilding the safe house. Jace patched the walls and upgraded the sensors. Leary studied battle files, learning enemy tactics, weak spots, and weapons. She trained every morning. Sweat dripping down her face, fists bruised but steady. Jace watched her with quiet pride. She had changed, not just in strength, but in spirit. The scared girl who had once flinched at every sound was gone. In her place stood a survivor. At night, they sat by the fire, eating simple meals. Leary often stared at the stars, her voice soft. "They thought they could break me," she said. "One night, they put chains on my body, but never on my soul." Jace nodded. "That's what they fear most." He reached into a box and pulled out a small disc. He pressed it, and a light blue hologram floated in the air. It showed Marla, his sister, laughing as she flew a small scout ship. Leary leaned closer, quiet and still. She was fearless. Jace said. "Too brave for her own good?" Leary asked. "Did she fight back?" Jace's voice lowered. To the end. Leary didn't say anything, but her hand curled into a fist. She thought of all the girls, like Marla, like herself, stolen. And silenced, she swore she would never let it happen again. One morning, Jace handed her a small black box. "What's this?" she asked. "Open it," he said. Inside was a silver tag, smooth and polished. The word engraved on it was bold and clear, free. Leary touched it slowly. "I don't need this to remind me," she whispered. Jace nodded. "I know, but maybe someone else will." She closed the box and held it to her chest. It wasn't just metal, lit was meaning, a gift not of pity, but of respect. Later that day, a signal appeared on the radar, a small ship entering Earth's orbit. Not a hunter, not a slaver, but something unexpected. Leary looked at the screen, her breath catching. "That's not one of them," she said. "That's a distress beacon." They opened a secure line and listened. The voice was alien, female, young. "Please, help. We escaped. We have no place to land." Leary turned to Jace, eyes wide. "There are more like me," she said. He stood up and began preparing the landing zone. "Then we bring them in," he said. When the ship landed in the clearing, the ramp opened slowly. 3 alien girls stepped out, scared, tired, and bruised. They looked just like Leary had when she first arrived. But now, she wasn't the one hiding. She was the one offering her hand. "You're safe here," she said. No one owns you." They didn't speak, but one of them burst into tears and hugged her. Jace watched from a distance, his heart heavy but hopeful. That night, Leary sat beside the new arrivals. She shared food, gave them blankets, and told them stories, how she ran, how she fought, how she found a human who didn't treat her like a thing. The girls listened, their eyes wide. "You're not a slave," she told them. "You're not weak, you're alive, and that means you can choose." She placed the silver free tag on the table between them. "Tomorrow, we make more," she said, "one for each of you, and for every girl still." Waiting, Jace walked in and placed a toolkit beside them. "If you want to learn how to fight," he said, "I can teach you." Leary looked up and smiled. "They want to live," she said, "and you're going to help." Hook ending, but as they prepared to train the new escapees, the radio came alive again. This time, it wasn't a threat, was a warning. A human voice from a distant outpost said unknown ships entering orbit. Heavy in number, Jace and Leary shared a look. The fight wasn't over, but now they weren't alone. Now they had a reason to stand, to protect, and to lead. The skies above Earth darkened. Satellite screens showed dozens of ships slowly entering orbit. Their shape was smooth, long, and cold slaver ships. Leary stood in the safe house control room, fists clenched, heart steady. "They're here," she said, "just like I said they would be." Jace turned from the monitor and looked at her. "We can't fight them alone," he said. Leary nodded. "Then we call everyone who still believes in freedom." Within hours, she sent out signals to rebel networks, hidden colonies, and off-world shelters. Her voice was clear, strong, and fearless. "This is Leary. Once a slave, now free. They are coming, and they will take more unless we stop them. If you've ever run, if you've ever hidden, now is the time to stand." One by one, messages came back. A human outpost in the Arctic offered backup drones. A group of retired war veterans agreed to defend key landing sites. Even a small alien fleet answered, survivors from another planet that had once been enslaved. The safe house became a command center. Jace showed the newcomers how to use the defense systems. Leary trained the rescued girls to fight, not with hate, but with purpose. "You don't have to be strong to stand," she told them. "You just have to decide that you won't kneel again soon." Humans and aliens stood together in the dusty clearing above the bunker. Old weapons were cleaned, new ones were built. The Earth that once feared the stars was now ready to defend its skies. Then the ships began to land. Silent black giants, rising from the clouds like monsters. They didn't speak, didn't warn. They just opened their metal doors and marched forward with machines and hunters. Jace took position on a high ridge, sniper rifle in hand. Leary stood at the front lines with the others. She wore a chest guard made from parts of her old cage. Her staff glowed with blue light. Humming with energy, the first wave hit hard. Drones shot down trees, machines marched forward, but the defenders didn't break. Every strike they gave back was filled with fire and fury. Leary moved like a storm, faster and sharper than ever before. She led the others through the chaos, protecting the younger ones, guiding the wounded. She was not just a fighter, she was a leader. The battle stretched for hours, smoke covering the hills. The sky above burned with fire trails as smaller ships crashed or escaped. Jace's voice came through the earpiece. "Northgate weakening. They're pushing hard." "I'm on it," Leary replied, and ran into the dust. She reached the gate just in time. Slavers had broken through, cornering 3 of the rescued girls. Leary didn't hesitate. She leaped forward, striking fast and hard. One fell, then another. The last one raised his blade, but a shot from above hit him clean in the chest. Jace had her back, always. By sunset, the last hunter fell. The slaver ships, now damaged and leaderless, lifted off and fled. They didn't win the planet because they didn't expect to face a girl who once lay in chains. The battlefield fell silent. Bodies of machines and broken weapons lay everywhere. Leary walked through the dust, helping the injured, calming the frightened. She didn't smile. Not yet, but in her eyes, there was peace. Jace limped toward her, holding his side. "You're alive," he said. "You too," she replied. And for the first time, she laughed that night. A fire burned in the clearing, not for war, but for memory. They buried the fallen with honor, human and aliens side by side. Not as enemies, not as strangers, but as people who had chosen to stand. Later, Leary sat beside Jace on the hilltop. She held the silver tag that still read free. But now, she didn't wear it around her neck. She handed it to one of the new girls, young, scared, just like she once was. The girl asked, "Is this really for me?" Leary smiled and said, "It's for all of us. We share it now." Jace looked at her and asked, "What now?" Leary stared at the stars above. "We build," she said. "A place where no one is property, where every voice matters, where fear doesn't win." Final hook, closing. And far above them, in the cold space beyond Earth, new signals lit up. The dark ships from across the stars were watching. Some came to help, some came to listen. Because a small girl who once refused to be owned had now started something far greater, a rebellion of hope. And Earth would never be the same again.